So, welcome to FPL Faff with Jez, Jack, and Jim. I'm Jez.
I'm Jack.
And I'm Jim.
And Jim is apparently very confused about what his name is.
Correct.
So, basically, we're just going to talk you through.
I went for a suspense.
You're already interrupting. I'm not even through the introduction, man.
That's how I roll, man. That's how I roll.
God.
Welcome to FPL Faff.
Go on, James. Tell us why we're here.
I have no idea. You just called me up and be like,
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Jim, come on. We need you to talk about shit. And yeah, here I am.
And talk about shit we shall.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk through everything FPL, basically. We are all avid FPL enthusiasts. Myself, I'm a solid 14th place. Jack is always atop the table, so he's here for that reason. And James, I would say, is a pretty face.
Well, no one can see that.
People have to use their imaginations.
By the way, yeah, Jez being 14th, there's only 14 people in our league, so yeah.
This year
That was important to add in there, Jim. I was hoping someone was going to do that. It had to be you.
This year there's going to be less people in the league, so I'm going up the table.
He's deliberately stopped people joining the league just so there'll be less competition.
Look, man, there's only so many years in a row I can take it, like losing out to people who don't look at their team for like 3 weeks straight, man. Come on.
I mean, fair. I mean, it's really fair.
Me coming off third sub, just it makes me so angry.
Well, it's either that or people who triple captain Antonio, who scored 4 goals last season.
I wonder who would do that.
Yeah,
Jesus
I don't know. I can't remember.
Christ.
I think was it the guy that finished top?
You are the most undeserving prick
Also,
that has ever lived.
how? Like, that shouldn't even be a thing. That's worse than me bringing Henderson on, where he turns up for 1 week. For 1 week of the whole season, Henderson.
That was dirty.
There were about 3 games where he was just an FPL king. I don't know what happened to him. He's gone from that sideways centre mid dynamic player into someone who's just scoring and assisting goals for fun. It was short lived, and we knew it would be, but funny nonetheless.
He was the year 8 that got promoted to the senior team because they had a couple of injured players and they were already getting smashed. And the coach was like, you know what, do what you like.
Exactly.
Without doubt. Yeah. I don't know how that happened. I don't know how I felt that, he was going to be a turn-up king.
You know what? You didn't feel shit. You got lucky.
Maybe.
You know
maybe.
what? I changed my mind. You're both pricks.
Correct, yeah. So I'm a solid second,
Fourth place.
I finished third last season, actually, but
Yeah, tied third. It's the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same. But they fucking staked. It's all because of not captain KDB at the end. Like,
man,
that was it. I mean, dude,
don't talk to me about captains. Like, we looked at this together. The last 8 weeks straight, my vice captain outscored my captain. Like, come on now.
Not be funny.
That's harsh.
That should automatically change. Like,
I reckon it should.
It should. If the vice captain that you have chosen scores more points, then it should flip.
Yeah. Honestly,
without doubt.
That would save so much heartache. That would probably stop me from quitting 6 times each year.
but we still continue, and yet here we are going into more detail more depth. But I just want to make a further point. It's like I finished on the last game week of last season the most points. I got like over 100 points, I think. And I still didn't captain KDB, and that's brutal. Screwed me, and I'm still bitter about it. And I'm gonna keep saying about it. I'm gonna keep talking about it to make you all aware that there's been injustice.
James, you've been struggling with injustice your whole life. Like, imagine growing up in Liverpool and being forced to support Everton.
Which was exactly where I was going to go to next, because not quite FPL, but I think it is always good for inevitably our millions of listeners in time who would want to subscribe to our podcast, just to understand us a little bit better and the way in which we come, what angle we come at. I think it might be good just to talk a little bit around who we support, who we're a little bit more affinity towards. Jim, we already found out that you are the blue side of Liverpool.
The only side of Liverpool. That is correct. And
Jez, who is your team?
So you may not know it from the accent, but yeah, I'm a Liverpool supporter.
He's from the upside down, no one can understand what he says
you're from the north, James. Like, I've got my translator sitting next to me.
Okay, sure. But
so to give some context to that, the upside down is Australia. It's not the Stranger Things. Well, it's a little bit like
it
that.
Might as well be, yeah.
There's big ass spiders, and everything wants to kill you. So, yeah.
It's not the right way up. I'm just throwing it out there to all our Australians out there.
So just like Everton is not the right way up in terms of the table.
We did have a dog shite season, but
decade,
fucking brutal. Let's not talk about Everton, even though I'm super excited with Rodriguez and Ali.
I feel like Jack's getting his feelings hurt here. He's just asked us a question, and we're just like, you know what, fuck you, we don't care who you support. So for all of our 100,000 million listeners, Jack forgot to put his phone on Do Not Disturb, and he switched off his audio recording.
Yeah.
Which is going on right now. Do Not Disturb. I like that.
Which is brilliant because we didn't want to know or care that you support Arsenal,
That is my team.
Yeah, to be honest as well, you said you were out for like 30 seconds. We didn't actually notice that you were gone.
No. How bad is that?
Well, I was just too embarrassed. I knew we were going to come around to Arsenal, and I think the FA Cup win last season was the only thing that salvaged what was a quite frankly awful season. So I'm going to keep quiet on who I support because I can't imagine we're going to have a better season than we did last. But that's my team. That's my angle. You can understand as we go through our teams, you'll get a feeling as to where I'm coming from, I hope.
So Jack, here's a question for you. Do you think Aubameyang is going to hang around?
He is going to hang around, and I think he's going to sign a 2-year deal, and it's going to be announced in the next 2 weeks. That is that's my hope. Whether it will happen or not, fuck knows.
He will stay. Where would he go? Who's interested?
Everyone.
Service. He just needs a service. But he's solid, and I'm super excited that he is now a midfielder because with the points that he got as a striker, he's going to be really close to Mo and De Bruyne. So
I was looking at this, because the amount of clean sheets that Arsenal kept last season, plus the amount of goals that he scored, he gets an extra point for every goal that he scores as a midfielder. He would have been right up there with De Bruyne. He would have been within, I think, 5 or 6 points of his total, and everyone was raving about him, and everyone was like, "Oh, Aubameyang, shit, get him out of your team because he only turns up one every 3 weeks." But you know what? I reckon this year he's going to be the most valuable player.
It's such a game change. This season is just an absolute... It's a minefield. The midfield options are... You compare that and the forward line. It's just, there's too many. You can't have them all. You've really got to start to pick, and that's when things get interesting.
Let's get straight into it. What are your teams looking like?
What are our teams looking? I'll go first. It's been... I've changed my team so many times.
Yeah.
Since we first started. My midfield's a bit of a mess. I'll start at the back. And I can see a lot of other players have gone with a similar tactic with either Ryan or McCarthy. I've gone for the Brighton stopper. And I've gone for him because I feel like they've really enforced at the back of the season. Veltman's been a good signing. They got him very cheap. Ben White had a standout season for Leeds.
He's going to be great.
I'm sure he'll slot right in.
No, he's
a nice,
solid.
Absolutely, very easy replacement for Duffy, who's gone on loan to Celtic. I think they'll do a lot better this season. And I've also gone for Jed Steer as my second keeper. I don't expect him to play, but I actually had to do a bit of research on this. I went back to last season and I looked at Nyland, who was... He came in and he deputised for a little while. But I think if Jed Steer was fit and actually had a decent run of games, I think he would have picked him to that second choice. So, I think so. I'm hoping that because Tom Heaton is injured and there's no immediate return for when he's going to come back, I feel like Jed Steer is going to get the number one spot, which I'm hoping might be a bit of a a lucky coup. If not, it's a huge mistake, and he'll be changed in my wild card.
But I guess
they're the two at the back.
If not, I mean, you still got Matt Ryan anyway, and I think he played all 38 games last season. You know, he's a tough guy.
But the thing is,
obviously, because he's from the Upside Down too. You know.
Yeah, that's one thing. That's one thing, and it's also a very big thing. But do you really see Brighton keeping a clean sheet against Chelsea? You know, first game.
Absolutely not.
Back with the spending and the fit, and you know the people that that Chelsea have brought in, like they are gunning. No pun intended about being a gunner, but like gunning to a title or definitely silverware this year, Chelsea. So like you do not spend that kind of money and expect a 0-0.
I think you're spot on. The only thing I'd add to that is you can't ignore the save points. And I'm going to throw Nick Pope into this. And he was obviously standout last season. Mm-hmm. He got a shed load of assists to his credit, but a lot of his points were made from saves and then the subsequent bonus that comes from that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's got Ryan written all over it. And we saw Nick Pope, I think his value went up $1 million from the start of last season to the end of it.
Yeah.
I can see Ryan doing a very, very similar thing.
Yeah, do you know what? I made a huge mistake last season because I had Matt Ryan in from the start and I was like, I'm a genius. And he didn't perform the first couple of weeks and I was like, I'm going to get him out. And as soon as I did, he turned into a certified turn-up king.
He did. He did.
So I guess for anyone listening, if you hear me give you a suggestion on who to pick because they're in my team,
don't do that. Do not do it. Literally do the opposite. In fact, get the person that he took out of his team and get them in because
triple captain straight up.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I am probably going to get Ryan back in without a doubt. At the moment, I've gone for McCarthy just because I'm looking at fixtures.
Yeah. Because that's it. Like Palace, they're probably not scoring against Southampton this first game.
Yeah, I mean,
Palace at home, but they are not looking like a strong side this season.
No, I like Palace. Don't get me wrong, I like Palace, but like Southampton
I like them too,
are a machine, and Ings is going to fucking score. He's just going to score.
So that brings me to the next thing because I think the last few weeks when we've been developing our teams, at some point we've all had Danny Ings in our side, but like Jim, you and me, he's gone.
Yeah.
Why?
We know he's
going to score. We know that he will. Why is he not in our team?
I don't know why he's not in there. Why is he not in there? Why do you know what? I can tell you why. Because of all of the new midfielders. Because Jack just mentioned before saying like there's so many more midfielders, which means we can't have them all. We can't have them up front and of our favourite midfielders, the turn-up kings. That they're not. We have to choose, and it is going to make it more interesting. And the fact that I want literally a turned up midfield, which means I've gone bare bones and like up front, I just can't justify a decent price. 8.5 is he Ings? Like I mean that's solid. I would have him up front because the thing is he is going to turn up and he is always going to score.
I loved him last year for what was he 7.5 something like that. I don't know if I love him for 8.5. Like, I'd rather have someone like Mason Greenwood in the midfield, 7.5. He's going to be starting every game this season. You know that he's going to be playing up front, and you know that Manchester United are going to be playing well because they're going to get the service. They got Van der Beek just come in, who's going to pair with Fernandes, or if he doesn't, it's going to be Pogba and Fernandes.
Yeah.
Watch out.
Yeah.
I think the interesting thing about Ings, which it doesn't necessarily go for Ings, but actually the rest of the Southampton squad, you look at their fixtures and the ratings that the Fantasy League gives you. Southampton have got a very, very nice run up until game week 9. I think the hardest fixture is Chelsea away. Mm-hmm. Within that, they've got a sea of green fixtures, which I think would be a really, really great opportunity, not only for Ings, but someone like a Walker Peters or arguably a Bednarek, someone like that. They were able to shut out teams up last season. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that again this time around.
Yeah, totally. I think.
I mean, how's your defense looking? What's the score there for both of you?
So that depends. Are you asking me yesterday or are you asking me today? Because
I'm asking your current state of play, Jez.
I mean, it changes on an hourly basis.
Man, look, I've been sending Jim photos pretty much on the hourly with 6 changes each time.
In fact, in 24 hours you made 11 changes. 11 changes in 24 hours. For fuck's sake, mate, just pick.
There was one player, no, sorry, McCarthy as well, but there was one player on my outfield who didn't change, and that's Aubameyang.
Very nice.
Fair.
But so my answer is I don't know. No, I toyed with the idea of getting Trent out and just, utilizing that everywhere else. I thought about trying to get Werner up front, but you know what? For 7.5, I think Trent is actually worth it. If he has a season even like half the same as last season, he's going to get assists. You know that Liverpool are going to get clean sheets.
Well, you don't know about that,
Well, I think you do, because
they might win, sure. I mean, James, reluctantly they might win. But the thing is, they're not going to keep a clean sheet every single game.
Liverpool have to play Everton twice every season. That's at least 2.
Outrageous.
Well, I'll take you through mine anyway. I've gone fairly light, I think, because we've talked about it a fair few times. I'm looking at my midfield beyond anything. So I've gone with. There's been a lot of talk around him. I've gone for Tyrick Mitchell at the back. Yep. Van Aanholt even is out for a little while. For how long? Is on a bit of a ticking time bomb. I've gone for Trent because I feel like if you don't, you might as well just say bye to winning anything. I think he's that important to the way the Liverpool play. He is expensive, but when you compare, he's the same price as James Rodriguez. I mean, it's a no-brainer who you're going to pick.
Trent is a bonus point machine.
Yeah, I think it's a given. You have to have him in, without a doubt.
I actually looked at getting him and Van Dijk, but when I started to do the maths and really wanting to get a strong midfield together, it becomes a little bit difficult. So I've ended up just... Alexander-Arnold is my only Liverpool defender. I've also gone with Douglas from Leeds. I think he's nailed on the left back. I'll be surprised if they get anyone else in to replace him.
I'm not going to lie, I'm surprised by that choice because, what is he, 4.5?
He's a 4.
He's at 4. Okay, there we go.
Is he a 4? Shit.
Douglas, Barry Douglas. He's a budget pick. He's someone who,
Are you playing him, though? Are you playing him?
Yeah, are you playing him? Like, are you relying on him to show up and play every week?
So I'm playing not every week. He will be playing in my first game week squad, obviously, because City and United are all out. But he'll be in my squad. If he's starting for Leeds, who got a decent number of clean sheets last season, and he's nailed on a left back, get the odd assist here and there. He's someone who will probably stay with me. 2 more. I've got Ben Davies at left back. I think Danny Rose hasn't got a chance at Tottenham anymore. Obviously going out on loan to Newcastle. Don't know if you guys have seen the All or Nothing thing program on Amazon Prime, but the relationship that he has with Mourinho is an absolute mess. So I can't see Danny Rose is going to be in the fold. I think Ben Davies he's probably locked that down for the remainder of the season. And then I'm not concerned. Sorry, I'm not sure about this choice. I've gone for Vinagre at left back. Okay. And I saw that Wolves have signed Marcel from, I think it was Lyon, I believe, can't remember. But what you've got there is someone he was a very good understudy for Otto. And I was a little bit hoping that he was going to come in and be the person who could really grow up into that position. He'll be a starting Premier League left back at a really, really good price. But I'm slightly concerned by the new signing and whether his limits will be numbered. But he's in there at the minute. He's a nice price point at 4.5. And as we saw last season, Wolves' defence is fairly solid.
So I was thinking the same thing. And, all of the scouts on the app are basically saying the same thing, get him in. But I don't know if he's going to play. And, for 4.5, I feel like there's some decent backs out there, especially this year from teams like Leeds and I mean, even West Brom, and some pretty attacking defenders as well. And I feel like there's better value than someone that you're not sure if they're going to play. Also, Wolves, their first few fixtures are not great. I'd be looking towards. Well, I'll just tell you who I've got, and then we'll see. So my back four consists of Trent. I've got Dallas from Leeds. I've got also Eiling from Leeds because I was looking at the stats and those guys were racking up some goals and assists last season. So I imagine that they're going to be involved in it. I think Dallas is he's even more of a midfielder than a defender, so he usually plays a little bit up. At the moment, I've gone for Doherty because you know what, he was great for Wolves. I feel like he's going to be absolutely marauding in that position for Tottenham, and I mean Tottenham are just a better team, so they're hopefully going to get some clean sheets as well. And I've got Walker Peters rounding it out because going the other way from Tottenham, he's a good player, and as we said, Southampton they were a good team towards the end of last season. I think they're going to be strong again this season. To be honest, I'd be looking at like between 6th and 10th place for them.
Nowhere near 6th, but they'll be in the mid. They'll be in the mid round of the table for sure.
The thing is, so basically, I just think they're going to be nowhere near the relegation zone.
It was just interesting, Jack. You were saying that you've got Dallas. Was it Douglas there with Trent? That one of them is going to have a clean sheet, and the other one you ultimately have pretty much guaranteed you're not getting that many points for. They're not going to get a clean sheet. Or do you think Liverpool at home to Leeds is going to be a 0-0 draw?
I don't think it's going to be a 0-0 draw. I'm actually starting to think a little bit for the long term here. I don't want to play my wild card too early. That was a mistake I made last season. I played my wild card in game week 3. I should have waited to at least game week 7 or 8.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to do now is future-proof myself for doing that a little bit later. What's really, really difficult is, and we'll get onto it later on, but particularly City and United not playing in game week 1. And we'll go through the rest of my team in a bit, but that's really messed me up because I wanted to try and factor in getting them in at some point soon, but not wanting to jeopardise game week 1 to be a write-off because I haven't, thought about it properly. So it's more of a balancing act. So when you talk about Douglas and Luke Ayling and Dallas, they are great picks. I do think Leeds will do well this season. I don't think they'll do a Sheffield United, but I think they'll be comfortable. I don't think they'll get anywhere near the relegation zone. And a lot of that is going to rely on. I think a lot of that's going to rely on not letting goals in. And they've got a good squad, good manager. I think there's some potential in their defence there.
Yeah, I like that you're thinking long term, and I guess you have to. But also, City, United, all the some of the biggest players in the game aren't turning up, and you need a strong start. We all know you need a strong start, and like last
100%.
season we actually all had a very strong start, and then it did start to tail away because there were some unpredicted results that we would just never have foreseen, in regards of Sheffield and Southampton and the like. Wolves had a great season, I think. Players that mixed it up, that kept it a lot more interesting. And I scored some of the lowest times that I've ever done in the whole of like playing, FPL, only last season. Literally last season, which
last season was very strange for a lot of reasons, but I would say one thing just generally, like I definitely want to get some City players in as well, but I don't want to go that hard on City. Like I'm definitely not going to have 3 players in my team at any one point because
Pep's rotation fucks us all.
Pep's rotation, you know what? Both of you guys are pricks. He is up there. Pep Guardiola, get out. Please leave.
He's the worst manager for FPL. He is the worst manager.
Shall we get into one of the more exciting parts of this call, I'm sure? What is your midfield looking like?
Correct. So I've been tossing... Well, sorry, Jim.
No.
I'm just going.
No, go. Go for it.
I've been really tossing and turning on this because, I think this season, with some of the players being reclassified as midfielders, I think that's where all the points are at. So I'm, personally, I'm planning to go huge on my midfield and just live with it up front and at the back a little bit. I've got three defenders that are all 4.5 just so that I can finance a bit of midfield, expense. So at the moment, I've got Son for Tottenham, I've got Mo Salah, Aubameyang, Pereira, and I've got Greenwood sitting on the bench because I don't want to have to transfer him in next week. But I know 100% the 2 transfers I'm making at the 90th minute of the first game
Two transfers, -4 points straight away. Boop, 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 boop.
Oh boy. So straight away, Mo Salah and Heung-min Son, they're going to leave for Fernandes and Kevin De Bruyne. Like that's not even a question.
Mm-hmm.
Snakes are us, is what that is.
Correct.
Yes. Do you know what? Mine's very similar to the point of even...
To the point of, I showed you my team and you copied it exactly. Yes.
Incorrect. I mean, it's changed on countless times. I can't keep up with you, man. But, like, yeah, if you don't have a Aubameyang in, I think just get out right now in your midfield. And obviously, you've got to think of fixtures. Yep. And Salah, Son, I'm not going to name the other two.
Snake.
Yes, but no, I'm very, very excited about this one I've got in, and I'm hopeful. I've taken a risk.
Do you know what, James? Jim, don't tell us. Just tell the listeners.
Yes, I'll just tell the listeners. Well, basically, I'll tell you my formation and the reasons why. I've gone for a 4-5-1, and if you really think about it, on average, you're gonna be getting more points at the back and in midfield, especially if it's going to be a clean sheet. So, so yeah, they'll get more points if they score, and they'll get the extra bonus points, and they'll have a clean sheet bonus. So, I am just going to play on averages, and you bet it that I'm going to be playing a 5-man midfield throughout the whole season.
I think it's exactly the way to play it. I think this season, you look at Aubameyang, Rashford, Greenwood, all of these players who were really, really safe bets up top last season. That's all been flipped on its head. I think if you're not having 5 in your midfield constantly, it's a dangerous position to be in. It's a risky one. Could pay off. There are some good strikers still in there. But as we all know... Go on, Jim.
No, I kind of don't want to be saying this, because you are going to benefit from having a 5-man midfield throughout. I have seen some teams where they've put 3 up front, and there's just no point. There's legit
thing is,
it
can pay off like 1 week, but if you have a week where all 3 of your strikers don't score, you've got 6 points. Because that's it. They're not going to benefit from a clean sheet. There's none of that. They're not getting any bonus points. If you've got a midfield, they can dig in, maybe do a little bit of defensive work, or if your team gets a clean sheet, they'll get the clean sheet bonus.
So Jim, who is your midfield if you're willing to share?
So yeah, I've got Aubameyang, I've got Salah, I've got Son, all for the fixtures. I do think Arsenal are going to beat Fulham, even though I do think they're going to put up a little bit of a fight, but hopefully not too much.
I feel like Fulham are going to roll over and get smashed.
I don't know. I think Mitrovic is going to score. He is going to get booked.
Mitrovic is an island. He exists solely by himself and has nothing to do with the actual game. They can be getting absolutely smashed 6-0. He's just fucking around and doing what he feels like up front. He gets the ball and he'll ping one in. And he'll be like, oh, yeah, goal for me. He doesn't care about the team. He's just there for himself,
But yeah.
He exists as an entity by itself.
I hear you. And the thing is, Aubameyang was quite inconsistent last season, and yeah, he did turn up, but it all depended on the game, and you couldn't really depict, because either if it was home or away, he could play shit. So it really, it's a gamble. But,
but the games where he was on, he was really on there.
Yeah, it is worth it. The thing is, as Jack was saying, the Arsenal won the FA Cup. That's fucking huge, but. They did have a dreadful season in the league, and
but you got to think things turned around like mid-season. They got Arteta in, and instantly it was much better.
Yeah,
I think they're
Arteta's the man. Arteta's the man. Legend in the old Goodison faithful, but
he's been great. He's been phenomenal for us, and that will only continue into this season. I'm sure.
I reckon Arsenal are going to clear out some of the dead wood as well. Maybe get one more player in. I reckon Arsenal are probably looking for another defender. Because you've got David Luiz, but
they can't keep it. Man. Get Luiz out. He's useless. But also, they literally can't keep a clean sheet. I mean, that's how I felt last season.
And just to throw it out there, if you're listening to this podcast and you have David Luiz in your team, stop listening to this podcast.
Just like,
we don't want you anymore.
Get out. To be fair, the only listeners is going to be me when I'm half caught, pissed up, listening back to whatever this is, and that's going to be our only viewership. So cheers to future Jim listening back. I hope you have another one on me. But yeah, I'm trying to look at the fixtures, and I've gone. I think Chelsea's going to beat Brighton, so I've gone in on Werner. I really wish Everton will do Spurs at home, but I don't think that's going to happen. So that's why I've gone for Son. Because, last season, he just... If you want to talk about consistency, he has it. He does have it.
For me, he's one of the best players to have ever touched the Premier League. I think he is fantastic. It's so much so that I've got him in my midfield.
We've also talked him in, though? Are you going to do Jazz and swapping him for Fernandes?
I will be keeping him up until probably the start of game week 9, because then they've got, I remember this, I was having a look at the fixtures
City and Chelsea and Arsenal.
They've got City, Chelsea and Arsenal, so I'm quite keen to take him out before then. But there's 8 very, very nice fixtures. I think Tom will have a good season. I think Mourinho's got the team where he wants to, which pains me to say. Mm-hmm. But I think Son will do very well. I've obviously got Aubameyang and Salah as well. I think I toyed with Mane for a while.
Yeah.
Who actually, to be honest, has been a lot better in pre-season. I haven't really been impressed either, to be honest, by Salah or Trent. Trent being injured has really played, which is a slight concern as we go into the new season on Saturday. But I can't not choose Salah. For me, he's been the absolute mainstay in my team for the last 3 seasons, and it's pulling on the heartstrings there.
That's it.
The other thing that weighs into it as well is Salah's on pens.
He is on pens.
Even if he has a bad game, and this killed me so many times last season, because I was with Mane for most of the season and it did pay off, but towards the end, Salah, he would have an absolute garbage game. He would do nothing. Penalty, bam.
What I love, though, is that you took Mane out for Salah, to then Salah went off in one game injured, where Mane took the penalty and scored. And I was so happy, because you deliberately made that change because Salah takes the pens, and it just made my day, it made my week, and I was just very grateful that your pain in that.
Just about the only respite I got last year, I think, was when everyone decided to triple captain Mane when they had the double game week, and he didn't play the first game and then came on and got booked in the second game.
Jack, who did you triple captain on the first double game week? We both got what was it, 4 points? Fuck's sake, 6 at most. I can't remember.
No, he only got 1, so it would have been 3.
We got 3 fucking.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm laughing. That was me as well.
It was brutal. Brutal.
And to finish off, I should have started him because he is probably the best midfielder to grace Premier League actually in the last 10 years. I've got Harrison Reed in my midfield from Fulham, who's a lovely 4.5. Who was there last season. He was in the Championship. He'd done well. He was on loan from Southampton. I think he will be a mainstay. But for me, I look at him like Dale Stevens. He's going to rack up 70 points for the whole season. And just to clamber a couple of points, if you really need it, he'll always be there.
Yeah.
So he's going to be my fodder on the bench.
Third sub extraordinaire.
That's a great shout.
Absolutely.
Great shout.
And I've also gone for, and I've seen, I didn't realise this, but I had a look at the percentage of people who have picked him. And I'm even now, because I've heard the news around coronavirus, but I do have Thomas Souček in here from West Ham, who he's actually currently self-isolating at home away from the squad. But we're talking about someone who was formerly a defensive midfielder. He's now moved into attacking midfielder. West Ham's fixtures are horrific. I mean, to name a few, Arsenal, Leicester, Wolves, Tottenham, City, Liverpool, all in the first 7 games. It's not pretty. But he is someone who I'm actually planning on exiling from my team probably in week 3 to fund some future midfield talent, who I can imagine all of our listeners will know is not around the 5 million mark, but more around the 11.5 mark. But hopefully that will come at a later date.
I'm just checking now. Rodriguez is on the on the system now.
He came in at 7.5, didn't he? He
did. Interesting. Interesting.
On the face of it, I'm like, okay, 7.5. That's not bad for someone who's he's going to turn up.
He will.
I'm also looking at that and I'm like, is he going to turn up more than Greenwood will with United? The answer is no.
Well,
like the answer is no. It just
you
is.
don't know that, but I'm with you. I hear you. It's most likely,
I don't know.
Greenwood's already proven,
I think 7. I would definitely choose Greenwood over James Rodriguez and see how he gets on.
Yeah.
I think the interesting one, which has only happened in the last, probably since the start of this podcast, to be honest, but Doucouré has signed on a 4-year deal, and he, depending on how much for Everton, So depending on how much he is, I know that he was someone for Watford. He was always that kind of interesting £5 million midfielder who actually ended up getting forward quite a lot. And scoring and assisting. If he does a similar kind of role for Everton, I can't imagine he would, obviously, with James Rodriguez just signed, but he'd be a very, very interesting player to look at.
So he's not registered as a midfielder for Everton yet, unless he is actually a defender on the system.
No, he'd be a midfielder for sure.
Well, it's not been updated, so yeah, he has to be a midfielder.
I guess tune in for the next podcast to see whether he is a midfielder or a defender.
That's it.
The question on everybody's lips.
I have forked out over 8 million. That's all I'm going to say.
Have you? Oh, you've got Havertz. Okay. Okay. So that's I was going to ask about Havertz. What do you reckon? Because
yes,
I really want him, but again, I come back to like my gauge is Mason Greenwood.
Yeah, but he's not playing in the first game week. You've said you benched him.
Yeah, I have, but so the thing is, if you are not getting both Kevin De Bruyne and Fernandes in week 2, that's similar to having David Luiz in your team.
So remind me, Jez, who are you taking out to fund that transfer? You're thinking of taking out Salah.
It's going to be Salah and Son. It has to be.
The thing is, you have to choose between Aubameyang or Salah, or Salah and Kevin De Bruyne, or Kevin De Bruyne or Aubameyang. You can't have all three. And if you have, send me a picture. I want to see who else you've got in your team. Because
I briefly did that. I had Salah, Mane, Son, and Aubameyang, which would have then turned into De Bruyne and Fernandes coming in for Mane and Son. And the rest of my team was almost non-existent.
The thing is, we have gone big, but the whole point of this is that it's all about the underachievers, or the ones that we don't see turning up.
Correct.
And we all need the bargain. We all need a bargain, and the best thing about FPL is finding that bargain. And last season, without a doubt, it was Lundstrom. Where he was the only player that was in my team the whole season. Even though, he was injured towards the end, I just felt like I needed him in the whole season. And the first game week last season, 14 points straight off the bat. And who is this year's bargain?
That's a good question. So, I mean, there's a couple of answers for me. I think Pereira from West Brom.
Yeah.
I was looking at his stats: 8 goals and I think it was 17 assists.
Remind me of his price again, Jen?
He's 6 mil.
6 mil.
Because he's running out my midfield, and it's a bit of a gamble, but also I'm like, you know what, he can't go from 17 assists to 0 just by moving up the Prem. He'll be involved in it.
I was going to say, and if he can't make that jump, you're able to downgrade him for a bit of, even to someone like a Souček or I don't know, anyone who's a 5 or 4.5, and you've actually banked yourself a million in there to move somewhere else.
Immediately, I'm looking if he doesn't do what I want him to do, and Saka's playing for Arsenal, he's going to come straight in, save me 0.5.
I didn't.
The one thing I've always learned from FPL, I just want to make a point around price changes like that. So we've already talked about the midfield being strong enough, and ideally having 4, maybe even 5 if you can afford it. If you have 1 up top and you all of a sudden want to have 2 up top, it's very, very difficult to change that. You almost need to get rid of 2 players to fund that 1 change.
Absolutely.
So it's very, very smart to have 2 good strikers, 4 good midfielders, and 4 good defenders. A classic 4-4-2 that you can pivot around. I feel like that's a really smart move from you, Jez. If Pereira's injured or he doesn't fancy it in the Premier League or whatever, you can always downgrade him and shift it somewhere else. But it's harder to do that if you don't have kind of mid-budget players like him in your squad to start off with.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
It's a very good point, and it's a point that I am not going to be taking advantage of. I am definitely only going to stick to 1 up front. I've got 2 budget strikers. I've got Brewster and I've got Davis with Werner. And if anything happens to Werner, he's 9.5. I'm going to be able to do a like for like swap, but I don't honestly. I'm not. I'll bring Ings if he's turning up. Like, that's going to be the most likely, or even Richarlison. It really depends. Like,
see, Richarlison, I don't know, man, because last season he was classified as a midfielder and he did pretty well because of that. But this season as a striker, I think he's a bit of a waste of money, honestly.
I think if he's turning up, I'm going to bring him in. If Werner isn't, which that's not going to happen. But like,
there's better options for 8.5. You've got Ings and Jimenez. 8 mil for Richarlison.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Nah, come on, man.
Well, yeah, fair. But like, I think it's going to be different this season. I truly believe that. I also want to mention that the West Ham and Newcastle game. I think that again, West Ham, but also Newcastle. I think they're going to dick on them. And I have got Lascelles. I might have butchered his name. In defence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice. Good move.
This week, James pronounced his names poorly.
Yeah, I mean every single week. Not sorry.
James, who's that Chelsea defender? Cesar something?
Oh fucking hell! Azpilicueta, right? Is that how you say it? Azpilicueta. Fuck's sake! Well, he's got the hardest name to pronounce. I don't know.
Azpilicueta.
Yeah, there you go. Solid. But yeah, and also what is it? Saint Martin for Newcastle as well. He's like
Saint Maximin. Yes,
Saint Maximin.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Geez.
I mean, I'm not got his name up. I'm just trying to remember what his fucking name. Yeah, I'm so bad with names. Anyway, he's going to be a turn-up king. I think Newcastle are going to do much better. Also with Wilson, do you know what? I take it all back. I'll take Werner out for Wilson. No
Things
question.
that I did earlier today.
Yeah, you did as well. You did. That's a very smart signing.
6.5 Wilson is...
And
that's very attractive.
And Fraser coming in, that's very smart, I think.
Straight up, Bournemouth link up.
Yeah, sorry Bournemouth, but
The thing is, Bournemouth didn't have a shit team last season. They had injuries. All of their best players were out. King was out for a while. Wilson was out for a while. Fraser decided to be a prick and not play. So Fraser is the lowest form of life.
Oh my god, yeah.
Oh, imagine being a multimillionaire and letting down the club that you play for that is paying you exorbitant wages. Oh my god.
Well, we don't know the ins and outs, but no, I hear you.
No,
the thing is, they were just very unlucky. They were very, very unlucky. I do feel for Bournemouth. I feel like they should have stayed up, but they were so unlucky. I
really, really wanted to see Aston Villa get relegated again. I don't know why, but I did.
There's going to be no Aston Villa fans listening to this, but okay.
That's fine.
Grealish is the man. He saved them. Literally, he got the last. Like Jack, we were talking very early on that we always knew that they will be fighting for relegation, and if they were going to stay up, it's because of Grealish. The guy has just got so much fight. He's relentless. He's just going to keep going and going. Again, I would have him in my team, but he's not in there. I'm making some very poor choices. There's so many people that are going to turn up that I have not got in my team, and I do not know why.
But it's changing all the time. Like I was flicking on Twitter earlier. Ollie Watkins, is he going to be a player as of tomorrow, potentially? 30 million to Aston Villa, an extortionate transfer fee. Is that someone that we're going to want to look at? I mean, how many goals did he score? 26 goals last season?
So the answer is yes. He's definitely someone you're going to want to look at. For 6 million?
Callum Wilson. Sure, 6 million. Exactly. And we were talking completely. I'd be interested. Yeah. I'd certainly having a look. We were talking about Callum Wilson the other day. 6.5 before the price was announced. 6.5. Interested. 7. But even probably still worth looking at it. Any more than that, I'm not too fast. But he's coming at 6.5. And for me, I haven't talked about my strike forwards.
Goal scorer,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've personally got. I really like having 2 good strikers. So I've got Werner and Martial up top.
That's huge. That is huge. Martial is a turn-up king, and yeah.
I think when I look at United and their front line, and I look at Fernandes as good as he was last season, I think he'll continue that. But I think I'd still rather Martial. I think this will be the
wow.
He every season he's been in the Premier League, every single season that comes on, he looks like he's getting better and better. I think after the project restart, he was fantastic. For me, he is going to be United's player this season. I can see him getting 20, 25 goals in the Premier League. And I want him there.
Martial is an interesting one for me because half the time he looks world class and then half the time he looks like he doesn't want to be playing. He definitely did turn it around, and after Project Restart, he was class. But before that, I was like, why have I got this guy in my team for, what was he last season, like 8.5 or something like that? Why have I got him in my team to make 1 run per game?
He wasn't worth it at the start of the season,
He was at the start of the season. I think that Rashford was arguably a better choice, and he'd done very well. But we've seen what happened as soon as they brought Bruno into the squad. And not only has he changed the culture, but he's changed the way that they play. He's been a great signing. I think the only thing that makes me slightly curious to make a change is actually getting rid of Werner as a differential, because it feels like everyone's got him. Mm-hmm. Having someone like a Wilson or a Mitrovic, or let's see what Ollie Watkins can do, still keeping Martial, but actually shifting Souček into a Havertz. Because I think when the season's done and dusted, looking at Werner and Havertz, I'd like to think that there's not too much of a point difference between the two of them. I mean, Havertz is one of those players where he can play left wing, right wing, he can play in the hole, he can play up top.
I'm not saying that I've got both of them. I'm not saying I've got both of them right now. But no, I'm with you. Also, I just want to mention is that we haven't talked about the Golden Boot from last season.
We haven't, and it's worth it. It's worth talking about him. He's come in at a price point which, for a Golden Boot winner at 10.5, and there's another player who we need to talk about, and that's Harry Kane. Yeah. Yep. Both of which are the same price point.
Kane's a steal for 10.5.
Kane is a steal for 10.5. Absolute. I think he'll be right. He might even be Golden Boot winner this year. Yeah. And for 10.5,
Harry Kane's always in the conversation for Golden Boot. He tends to get injured once a year for like 6 weeks, and that sort of takes him out of it. But you know what? When he gets injured, you just take him out. No harm done.
And not too bad, because you got someone like Son waiting in the wings who's just going to completely...
And Lucas Moura, both of them will turn it up.
Bergwijn as well. I think he's going to be solid this year. He didn't really get quite as much of an opportunity as he probably would have liked last season. But when he came on, he looked dangerous. He's coming in, I think, 7.5.
Completely. I remember his debut. He scored at Chelsea, was it? He scored on his debut against Chelsea.
Beautiful goal.
He was excellent. It was a beautiful goal. It was a great strike. I'm hoping he's got a good, for Spurs' sake anyway, I'm sure he's going to have a good season. How do we think game one's going to go in terms of fixtures and predictions for the scores?
Right. Shall I just read out the fixtures and we'll just rattle off a result?
I will shout who I think will take it each time. Go on, do it.
Okay. So Fulham versus Arsenal.
Arsenal.
Yep, Jack.
Right, Jack.
It's got to be an Arsenal.
I'm always with Arsenal. Even though Fulham's at home, I'm sticking with Arsenal. I feel like Aubameyang's going to bag at least once.
Mm-hmm.
All I'll say for this fixture, the last time Arsenal played Fulham away, we won 5-1.
It was 4 or 5-1, right? Yeah, I want that to happen again, but Fulham not to score.
I definitely think Arsenal's squad is stronger since then as well, and Fulham's is probably weaker.
Yeah, you possibly think so, yeah. All right, next one.
So we've got Palace and Southampton.
Southampton all the way. I think, honestly, there's going to be a lot of... I don't know why I'm going for away wins, but like honestly, I feel like Southampton will do it.
I know. I'm going to agree with you, but like our golden rule for fantasy is fixtures home over away.
Yeah.
But also, you got to think without crowds, it doesn't make as much of a difference. So there's going to be some upsets away. It's the home advantage until they get some fans back in the stands, not as important as it should be.
Yeah, Jack, what do you think?
I agree. I'm going to be 3 out of 3 and go for Southampton. I think it'll be 2-1.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced by Palace, and to be honest, I think Hodgson will be the first to get sacked.
Yeah.
I think they're in big danger of going down.
Palace have got a lot of injured defenders too.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of injured defenders. I haven't seen them do enough in the transfer market to get me excited about them challenging.
Yep.
Feel for them.
I think Southampton have a fantastic manager, Ralph Hasenhüttl. I think he's fantastic. They've got a great goal scoring innings, and they're smartening up at the defence. I think that they're a good team, and actually one to watch this season.
Yeah, definitely. I think Southampton this season are going to be almost like Sheffield last season. They're going to be the ones with some cheap players coming in who are going to do bits and be fantasy legends.
Yeah, I think so.
West Ham, Newcastle. Honestly, I know they're going to be away again. I think they're going to. Honestly, I think they're going to turn up. I think they're going to have a much better season than last season. With, like I said, like we've just been saying, like with Wilson coming in and Fraser and the like. Honestly, I don't think West Ham has done enough. And yeah, Antonio did save them last season, and I think they're going to still keep Declan Rice, I believe. And like it's going to be a close one, but I truly feel it's going to be a fight. It's going to be a brawl, but I think Newcastle are going to peg them.
So this is an interesting one because Newcastle have been absolute garbage in their preseason games, but they've got those 2 new additions of Fraser and Wilson, and that honestly I think that's enough of a difference to make it up.
Mm-hmm.
West Ham, I think West Ham are going to be toying with relegation this season, just like they were last season. They need to make some serious changes to their team. There's not enough up front, there's not enough in the middle of the park, and there's certainly not enough at the back for me.
I tend to agree with you. I feel like if you look at the squad, apples for apples, you're assuming that Newcastle are going to win. I think that's kind of the obvious choice. I think West Ham are at home. They've got a point to prove. I don't like David Moyes, but I feel like he can rally the players. I'm going to go for a draw here. I think 1-1.
Okay. I just want to point out that it sounds like you're having a shit there with that echo.
Not a shit, but a piss for sure. Very, very in tune.
Just thought I'd mention that for everyone listening.
And our one listener has stopped listening.
That's me. I've already tuned out. I fell asleep. I passed out, literally.
Oops, sorry.
Who are the next? Okay, Liverpool and Leeds.
Liverpool Leeds.
Yeah, I think Liverpool will do it.
Liverpool at home. You know what? They haven't been playing great recently either, but you just got to think that they've still got enough to beat Leeds. I
think this is going to be, I'm going to throw it out there, probably one out of maybe 3 fixtures. I think the home side is actually going to win.
I think Leeds are going to score, though. To be honest, I think they're going to score.
I mean, I hope Leeds win, to be fair, even at a cost to, my FPL.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's not going to cost you anything because everyone's got Trent. If you lose a clean sheet, everyone loses a clean sheet.
And yeah, most people have Salah as well. Yeah.
That too.
I think it's going to be 3-1 Liverpool. I do think Leeds will score, but I do think it's a Liverpool win. And for the sake of all of our fantasy teams, I'm hoping that Trent gets all the assists and Salah gets all the goals.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
West Brom, Leicester. Yeah.
I did have Barnes. I did have Barnes in my midfield for so long. I'm still toying to get him back in.
Wait, you got Barnes out?
Oh, no. Barnes is still in.
You are a snake.
I think they're going to turn up against West Brom. I think West Brom they're going to bring it, but I don't think they've got the power to,
I've got this down as a 3-0 Leicester win. I think it would be an absolute dominance. I think Harvey Barnes will be a really, really good player. How much is he, Jim? 7?
Yeah. 7 bang on.
I think he'll be a very shrewd acquisition to your team.
Him,
and then there's Vardy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is with Leicester, they got a little bit fatigued towards the end of last season, but now they've had some time off. They're back into it. I think they're going to start really strong. Later in the season we'll see, but I think particularly at the start they're going to be full of goals.
I agree.
Tottenham Everton.
I'm not going to comment.
Sorry, Jim. This one's a Spurs win, and it's probably going to be quite an emphatic win.
I'm
thinking 3-0.
I would
maybe
like
3-1.
to think, because Everton can do away really well. And you can't. We fight until the end, and not necessarily last season, but we were the champions, and it's not very pretty to watch, but we were champions of a late goal right at the end to get a 1-0 victory. And so, I want to play better football than that going forward, and I think we definitely will. If we play open, we're going to get ripped apart at home, away to Spurs. But, I think we're going to, because our defence was just shocking last season. So, with these new acquisitions, with Alan coming in, I think
Rodriguez, it'll be interesting to see how they shape up in the midfield, whether they can actually get to gel with each other, or whether it'll take a little bit of time.
Yeah. I don't want to comment. I've got Son in there just because.
For someone who doesn't want to comment, you just went off on a nice little 3-minute monologue.
I'm going to stop. I want Everton to win.
I'll comment. I think it's a 2-0 Tottenham win. And I think it's going to be a fairly straightforward one. I think they'll play very well. I think Son will score from a Harry Winks assist, and Doherty will get an assist on his debut and a clean sheet, and he'll set up Harry Kane to wrap up the win. I feel like that's just right on the wall there.
Okay, I've changed my mind. It's going to be 2-2.
Okay, Brighton Chelsea. Yeah, For me, it's going to be Chelsea 2-0. I'm intrigued to see how Adam Lallana is going to do. I think so. We haven't talked about him much because I think he's probably a little bit overpriced, but I do think he's going to have a good season.
I think it's going to be closer than that. I'm thinking a 3-2 to Chelsea, or at least a 2-1 or 3-2. I think Brighton will score, or at least going to be really tough at the back.
So I definitely think Brighton are going to be a much tighter unit at the back, but for me, Chelsea have got the absolute firepower this season. And it sort of depends how Chilwell's injury goes, because I'm keen to see him come. Well, to be honest, they've got Marcus Alonso, and he's probably even more of an attacking threat, if just a little bit of a liability at the back.
If he's your second choice left back, you're in a very, very good position.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think it'll be 3-1 Chelsea. I think Werner will score a couple on his debut.
Mm-hmm.
You have someone like if Pulisic is fit, I'm not sure if he will be, but he's someone who can change the season around.
Yep.
He'd be a smart person to look at for the long term as well.
Absolutely. And Sheffield Wolves rounded it out.
It's going to be a tough one, but I think Sheffield will do it at home. I haven't bagged the home ones, but I think Sheffield will.
See, I feel like this is going to be a really dull game, unfortunately. They're both solid teams, but they're also, they're sort of like going to butt heads against each other, I think. I think it's going to be something like a 0-0, maybe 1-0 to Sheffield.
I've gone 1-0 Wolves. I think it's going to be a real horrible stalemate game.
Yeah.
But you can't knock Raul Jimenez.
No, you can't.
That's true.
He will score. And Traore, he is the most picked, 5.5 midfielder?
6.5, I think.
He is literally the most picked. And for good reason.
Yeah.
Traore and Jimenez will turn up, but Traore didn't really turn up at the latter stages of Project Restart, and so I'm not convinced. I have to see it to believe it.
I'm not convinced by Traore either. Honestly, I think for 6.5 you can get a lot of decent players that are probably going to play more consistently,
and that people don't have. It's all about getting the one that someone that the majority don't have, and you want to be climbing the league.
On the flip side, though, if everyone gets him in and you don't, you'll end up like me down the bottom of the table. This is...
Yeah, but you've got Pereira, Jez. You need to remember that. No one else is going to have him.
No one.
True.
For good
Look,
reason.
man. I like to live dangerously.
Van der Beek. I'm sorry, I want Van der Beek in there, but I just don't know if I can
James,
justify
we're talking about fantasy, not your fantasies. Come on.
Yeah. Well, he should be in your team. I think he will turn it up, and he is, just that little bit cheaper than Fernandez.
I would just that little bit cheaper or 3.5 mil.
Worth it.
I wholeheartedly disagree. I think he's going to be good. Don't get me wrong, but again, for 0.5 more, you've got Greenwood. I think Van der Beek's going to be a good player, but I also think he's going to get rotated a little bit with Pogba. I don't see him starting every week and contributing or being the main contributor to that team every week. He's definitely not going to be a bonus point machine. It's going to be Fernandez. It's going to be Martial, Greenwood, and Rashford.
I'm glad you just mentioned that last name because we haven't talked about him this whole session.
Rashford.
Yeah. I think
I can't see Rashford fitting into my side this year. He's not the main man for United anymore. I'm probably going to have 2 United players. It's going to be Fernandez. It's going to be, if I get someone else in, it's going to be Martial or Greenwood.
So I'm going to go for Rashford, without a doubt.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
I'm going to go
See
for
you
Rashford.
down the bottom.
He's not a striker anymore. He is in the midfield, and I'm going to maximize. Right. I'm going to maximize on that, and though his work ethic is unparalleled, I feel. And
but you got to think he's not playing up top anymore for United. He's more playing as a winger. They're playing three across the front, but really only Martial is stepping in.
Yes, but
to that striker position.
Yeah, and United love to play a winger, and he's going to start. He's going to play, and you tell Rashford that he's not going to score. Go on, tell him.
Do you know what? So, side note: Marcus Rashford is a phenomenal human being.
Yeah, correct.
It's just everything that he's doing for the community, completely unrelated to that, but I just thought it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Marcus, we know you're listening. Come on the podcast. We love you.
Yeah, amen. FPL After Hours, FPL Faff with, Jez, Jack and Jim to chat more shit and to keep Jim entertained when he listens back.
Actually, I think at this stage it's probably worth saying, again, I'm anticipating we're going to have millions of people wanting to follow us. We will be on Twitter, Instagram. We're going to be uploading these Spotify. Subscribe. We're gonna do it properly. So if you want, and we'll be doing it weekly as well. So we'll be looking at the game week ahead. We'll be discussing injuries. We'll be discussing form players, differentials, people who, you might want to jump on a bandwagon early, and of course all the players that people are jumping on the bandwagon, which are clearly the wrong moves to make. We love calling out those people.
Yeah.
People like Pereira. Like, who the hell would choose Pereira? Oh my God.
But yeah, it's going to be more interesting when we have a little bit more to say, when the season kick starts again. And I can't say that I'm going to be any better at speaking going forward. So,
Yeah, he's not using a speech jammer, just so we're all aware.
Mm-hmm. You can auto-tune me, right?
Oh, Jesus. I'd like somebody listening to auto-tune Jim. That would be the highlight of my life. So just to reiterate what Jack said, if you want to follow us on the socials, hit us up at FPL Faff. If you just want to tell Jim that he's got a shit accent, he follows a shit team, or his insights are shit, please do.
Outrageous. But yeah, please do. And any bants, love the bants. Yeah.
Yeah, this has been good. See you guys next week.
Fantastic. Thank you, everyone.
Cheers, guys. Cheers. Later.